I want you to hold your applause to the end if you could, just because I'm going to ask you to applaud for somebody other than me. Good afternoon. First, I want to, thank you all for being here today. I know this is it's a pretty hard task for some of you to get here. I'm doing the best I can. I've been upstairs all day talking, so I'm trying.
Move in front of the speaker.
But I want to tell you that, making the effort you did to get here today and do this is what it's going to take to keep your rights. There are folks here trying to take them away from you, so you've got to keep coming back here, you've got to keep emailing these people, and you've got to keep talking to them. I'm Vincent Smith. I'm a Virginia Beach City employee. My office was on the third floor of Building 2. I want to make it very clear that I was not in the building that day, but I was on the campus. I also man a desk in the Emergency Operations Center, which is unfortunately where I had to hear about this incident from. I sat there through the incident and after the incident. The victims were my co-workers, they were my friends, and they didn't have to be victims. I want to take a second here to tell you that I want to point out something positive about the opposing forces that we have here today, the moms, the people who are speaking out against your gun rights. Believe it or not, they do want the same thing you do. They want to be safe. They just got different ideas how to get there. So I'd like to ask you to just remember that when you're talking to one of them. I realize a lot of them don't want to talk. They don't want to talk about facts. Explain to them the facts the best you can, as politely as you can. Keep that in mind when you're inside the building also. We're just here to share the facts, share opinions, and share our stories. Despite my immediate connection to this event, I do not support more gun controls. I am a staunch believer in constitutional carry, as I know a lot of you here are. I also know that that's a battle we're not going to win here today and now. So when you hear me talk about compromises today, please understand that I'm trying to provide for the safety of my coworkers in ways that might involve a compromise in the short term. The laws that are proposed over here today, for the most part, would have had no effect on May 31st if they'd been law on May 30th. There are some that are close. I want to encourage you to take a look at Delegate Davis's House Bill 4007. He is working with Phil and I in the VCDL on modifying some of the language in that bill. That bill is modeled after Kansas's statute 75-C20, which puts the burden on the state or the locality to either provide adequate security or let the individuals provide for their own security. That's a good compromise for now. That bill in place on May 31st, I guarantee you, would have lessened the impact of what happened. I know people who were in the building, I know people who had opportunities to lessen the impact in one way or another had they had their firearm. But they're stripped of that right every day when they get to work by an outdated HR policy. It's not even a law, it's just a rule from an HR department that says we can't have our firearms at work, and it's got to stop. I think maybe they're starting to understand now that it doesn't work. I hope they're seeing the reality of it. I also agree with Senator Bill DeSteff when he said in Virginia Beach that we have a mental health issue. We have mental health problems. All right, somebody's losing microphones up here. I agree with that. Let's study it. Let's study it to death. But let's do the two things parallel. We've got to give individuals the right to protect their own lives and to protect lives of others. We can't even understand how a healthy person's mentality works, much less an unhealthy one right now. So let's work on those two things separately but parallel. And I also want to share with you, just like our first speaker, Brandon, back in the 90s, I did have an opportunity at one point, I won't say an opportunity, I had the unfortunate incident of having two teenagers approach me. One had a bat, one had a knife. I thank God that they realized when I pulled my weapon on them, when I pulled my firearm out of its holster, that they knew well enough to put those things down and walk away, because I didn't want to have to live with what was going to come next. So yes, sometimes you don't even have to use the firearm. It's the same reason you keep a fire extinguisher and a smoke detector in your house. So anyway, I just want to leave you with the thought that, I believe Senator Pratt must have looked over my shoulder and read some of my speech here, because, just like Kate Nixon, every day when I get to work, I've got to make a choice. Do I want to earn a living or do I want to save my life? Unfortunately, she did have to choose that day, and unfortunately, we all know what happened. So please put your support behind Delegate Davis and his efforts to give us that choice when we're at work. Thank you very much.
Hey, and please, as you clap,